John Templeton is devoting his time to more than 40 different projects related to religion.
We should be humble enough to try to learn more about our spiritual nature, about the opportunities, about how we can be more useful. And once you're humble enough, then you can undertake projects for discovering new things. For example, one of my great projects now is discovering the basic spiritual laws that everyone should live by in order to be useful and productive.
82 years young and still rocking, Sir John Templeton is next on Pinnacle. Outside the buying and selling hubbub of downtown Nassau lives Sir John Templeton, a man who has earned a legendary reputation for buying and selling in another marketplace, the stock market. Sir John moved far from the madding crowd to this verandahed home in the Bahamas more than 26 years ago.
You moved down here in the days before faxes and instant communications. Was it a disadvantage to do business from here?
Yes. As compared with being in New York, we did have to have more telephone expenses, for example. But we're in the same time zone as New York. We get the Wall Street Journal just as quickly as you'd get it in New York. But most important of all, if you're going to have an investment performance that's better than other people, you must not buy what the other people buy. But being 1,000 miles away, it was easier to be different. And only if you're different can you have a superior result.
Sir John has always been frugal, saving 50 cents on every dollar. After living in Texas and New Jersey, he moved to Lyford Key in the Bahamas in 1969. A quiet, gated community reminiscent of the orderly streets in suburban America. And they paid for their house with cash.
Looking back now, it's easy to see that you had an extraordinary gift for acquiring wealth. When did you first become aware of this special gift, this talent?
I don't know that I ever had that gift. I had a gift for common sense, I think, that I could avoid making mistakes that many of my friends made, and also a talent for self-control, so it was relatively easy for me to save 50 cents out of every dollar I earned. And then I chose a profession where I knew what to do with my savings. My savings multiplied more rapidly than if I were in some other business.
Didn't you also do some investing with money that you did borrow from your boss?
Only once in my life did I ever borrow anything. At that time, I had already saved $50,000, but I didn't want to sell it. So I did borrow $10,000 from my boss in order to buy $100 worth of every stock on both exchanges that was selling for less than $1 a share. I've never done it again, but it was a great opportunity then because there were over 100 companies whose shares were down below $1, and only 4 proved to be worthless. The other 100 recovered during the war.
Were these U.S. stocks?
Yes.
Within 4 years, Templeton's original $10,000 investment had quadrupled. Soon, he was exploring investment opportunities overseas in countries he first visited as a student.
I admire people who do original things, and when I was first out of Oxford University, before I came back to America and opened my investment counsel company, I did travel around the world for 7 months on only 90 pounds. I went through 35 countries. Our average cost for hotels was only 25 cents a night. We traveled for 7 months on almost no money, and so in effect we were the original hippie, but we didn't think of ourselves in those terms.
Where in the world is a good place to invest in '95?
At the point of maximum pessimism. Now that's a peculiar thing. It doesn't apply in any other business or any other profession. But share prices never go down to very bargain levels except on the force of other people selling. So if you're ever going to get a share at a bargain price, you must buy what other people are despondently selling. So you look all over the world to find where people are most despondent, what particular industry, what particular corporation is most depressed in price, and you buy that and then wait patiently for the outlook to change.
In 1978, you were one of the few who said, let's invest in Ford Motor when it was collapsing, and a lot of people thought that the U.S. auto industry was on the way out to Japan. Why did you see it as a good time to invest?
The only thing that puts a share price down is pessimism. Nothing else puts it down. But now, some of them, if there were no hope, would all go down to zero and stay at zero. But obviously, there was hope in America. There was hope in the automobile industry. It was only a matter that they had to go through redevelopment or recycling. And it took years, but the price of the stock did eventually go up to about 10 times what we paid for it in 1982.
Was that the biggest success you had with a U.S. corporation?
Oh, no, no, no. There have been far more profits than that.
John Templeton answers the age-old investment problem: when is the right time to sell? When Pinnacle continues. Sir John Templeton no longer manages the Templeton Group of mutual funds. He sold them in 1992 to Franklin Resources for about $930 million. These days, his interests run in a different vein.
You will notice around my office many marvelous mineral specimens of quartz, of amethyst, of petrified wood, and that is because I've always admired things created by God. This is a piece of a tree, a big tree, you see, that has been converted into stone by the ages. What had been wood is now stone, and what had been temporary is now permanent. So that petrified wood is one of the most inspiring and interesting things, and I have collected in warehouses many other specimens, but I don't know of any that is more dramatic or colorful than this one.
1973, bad year.
Yes.
Do you remember what happened then?
Between 1973 and 1974, the American stock market went down 48%, and that has been the largest decline in the American market since the Second World War.
And your fund went down also then?
Our fund went down, and that will always be the case. We expect that there will be about 2 bear markets every 12 years in almost every major nation.
So when is the best time to sell a stock?
That's a good one. I've worked with that for a whole lifetime, and I think I've got the right answer.
You do?
Yeah.
All right.
It's when you find another share that is 50% better bargain in relation to its true value. You estimate the values of all the companies, and thereby what each share is worth. If you are holding a share and you find a share in another corporation which is 50% more depressed in price in relation to its value, then you sell the one that's not depressed into the one that is depressed. So the answer is you never sell except when you found something else much more attractive.
We're talking about comparison shopping.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Sir John is a British subject, knighted by Queen Elizabeth after relocating in the Bahamas. But Templeton wasn't born to the manor. He was born in Winchester, Tennessee, a town that still has plenty of old-time charm.
Let's go back and talk about John the boy. Your parents seem to have had a kind of unorthodox way of raising you, didn't they?
They watched what I was interested in. If it were, for example, gardening, then I would discover that there were picture books and instruction books on how to garden. Or if they were interested, for example, in collecting butterflies, as I was greatly, then would be butterfly nets and other paraphernalia for learning.
It's been a lifelong passion for you then, butterfly collecting?
Yes, for a spiritual reason. None of us know what's going to happen after we die any more than that caterpillar knows what's going to happen after he forms a pupa. But the caterpillar is born again into something more magnificent than a caterpillar could imagine, and so maybe you will be too.
Today, his brother still lives next door to the family home in Tennessee. Harvey Templeton says his brother's earliest enterprise wasn't making money, but mud pies.
Do you remember the deal that you made with your father about getting A's in school?
Oh, yes. After my first report card in the first grade, I came home and had nothing but A's on it. And my father thought he would stimulate me by saying, well, now, each time you get anything less than an A, you give me a bale of cotton. And each time you get nothing except A's, I'll give you a bale of cotton. And he thought that in the long run, I would wind up owing him a lot of bales of cotton and he would forgive me. But I took it very seriously. And so every 6 months throughout grammar school and high school, I never got anything below an A. So he owed me 22 bales of cotton. And so then I forgave him.
Templeton developed his philosophy of accepting reasonable risk while at Yale and later as a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford.
I discovered when I had to earn my way through Yale that one of the easiest ways to earn my way through Yale was playing poker with the other boys. I knew from common sense that if I tried harder than the other boys, in the long run I'd come out ahead. So I paid about a quarter of my costs through Yale that way.
Did you consider that gambling or an intelligent risk-taking?
Well, that's the same thing.
More with Sir John Templeton when Pinnacle continues.
Most people don't realize that happiness is not an end. Happiness is a process. You become happy as you try to do things that are useful and worthwhile.
In 1972, Templeton decided he wanted to reward those who have made progress in religious research. He created a prize with a larger cash value than the Nobel Prize. Its first recipient was Mother Teresa. He has also authored many books on spirituality.
They learn the laws of mathematics and the laws of physics and so forth, and most of them are not aware that there are also reliable basic spiritual laws, worldwide laws, that if you live in tune with them, you'll have a happy life and successful. For example, it's more blessed to give than to receive.
What is your goal today with spirituality? What do you want to do?
Religion has suffered by being regional. There are different religions in different places, but it doesn't have to be that way. The ancient scriptures are wonderful, and it should not be neglected.
Like the Bible and
yes.
the Torah.
But if we develop knowledge about spiritual matters in the same way that we develop knowledge about your body or about the universe, then it will be acceptable worldwide. So we can develop a spirituality or a religion that is non-controversial. And not only that, but rapidly progressive, in the same sense as just mentioned, that we know 16 times as much about your body in only 60 years. If we were spending the same amount of money on spiritual research, we might know 16 times as much about your soul.
The idea of one currency was very popular for a long time. Of one language was very popular. It never happened. How can one religion ever come to fruition?
The same way that as there's only one medical science in the world, there's only one astronomy in the world.
Are there universal truths that underlie all religions?
Yes, yes they are. But if you try to take the present religions and reduce them down, reduce them to the common denominator, you wind up with a very low level. So that's not the right way to do it. The way to do it is to admire everything that's been done in every religion, not criticize any of it, but try to discover principles that are not based on history, not based on scripture, but are based on scientific discoveries. The world is now spending $2 billion a day on scientific research, and it's marvelous. If we can get the world to spend 1/10 that much on spiritual research, 1/10 of that is $200 million a day. If we can get the world to spend $200 million a day on spiritual research, the results will be even more beneficial than the scientific research.
Sir John understands tragedy. His first wife, Judith, was killed in a motorbike accident in 1951. In 1959, he was introduced to his second wife by a 6-year-old son. Irene Templeton passed away just last year.
I believe that our short time on Earth is only a small fraction of our total existence. That it's quite possible that God created all his children throughout eternity, and we are just put on this little planet for a short while as if we were going to school. We develop our spirituality, we develop our soul by the examinations we have while we're in this school, and this school happens to be called Earth.
Plato describes a superior person as one who won't think death anything to be afraid of.
Yeah, I'm afraid of death, everybody. I think it's very rare for a person not to be afraid of death because we don't know, because it's an uncertainty there. And I try to postpone my death as far as I can. But at the same time, I have to recognize that God is 1,000 times wiser than I, and probably he has something in store for me that I can't imagine. I already mentioned that a caterpillar can't imagine being reborn as a butterfly. I can't promise you you'll be reborn as a butterfly, but it's a possibility.
Have you discovered the key to a successful life?
The keys to happiness are not trying to get happiness for yourself, but the keys to happiness are trying to give other people happiness. If you do that, you'll have a happy if you're trying to give more than you get.
For a transcript of Pinnacle and many other CNN programs, please call Journal Graphics at 1-800-CNN-NEWS.